Questions orales. The honourable member from Regina Capel.
After 9 years, this NDP Liberal Prime Minister is not worth the cost, and Canadians are suffering through his inflation and high interest rates. For many families, the best hope for a summer vacation will be a modest road trip. Parents will sketch out a budget based on meals and hotels, and a big expense will be fuel. The GST, excise tax, and carbon tax have helped push fuel prices to near record levels, with many families unable to afford a vacation at all. Conservatives have proposed taking the tax off of gas and diesel for the summer, saving Canadians 35 cents a litre. Will the Prime Minister vote for our motion, or will he force more Canadians to stay home this summer?
The Honourable Minister for the Environment and Climate Change.
Mr. Speaker, this is a prime cut of Conservative baloney. And I know what I'm talking about. My dad was a butcher, Mr. Speaker. The savings that the Conservative Party of Canada claims for Albertans is based on people traveling 37,000 kilometers during their holidays, Mr. Speaker. 37,000 kilometers. You can go from the North Pole to the South Pole, and you would have kilometers left to achieve the savings that they claim, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member from Regina Capel.
That's just not true, Mr. Speaker. And everybody knows that the carbon tax costs more than the rebate. That is why the Prime Minister was humiliated into granting a carve-out for just some people in some parts of the country. And that's all we're asking for today, a carve-out on federal taxes on fuel and diesel for the summer. For the average family in Ontario, that would mean almost $600 in savings. Now, to the Prime Minister and his wealthy friends, that might not seem like a lot of money, but to struggling Canadians, that could make the difference to be able to say yes to the kids when they ask for some summertime fun. So will the Prime Minister have an ounce of compassion and help more Canadian families afford a vacation?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I know math is not the forte of the Conservative Party of Canada. Let me walk them through it. By their math, the Albertans would have to use 3,293 litres of gasoline over a 3-month period, Mr. Speaker. At an average of 8.9 litres per 100 kilometres, that equivalent to 37,000 kilometres. You would have to drive for 10 consecutive days, non-stop, Mr. Speaker. If you had 2 weeks vacation, you would have 2 days left, or maybe 3, to enjoy your vacation.
Member from Regina Capel.
I don't think math is the forte of someone who brags that he doesn't think about monetary policy and thinks that budgets balance themselves, Mr. Speaker. Maybe the reason why the Prime Minister is being so cruel about this issue is because he's long forgotten the thrill of the family road trip. You see, he has wealthy lobbyists who invite him to their private islands where he doesn't have to pay for the villas and he gets to stick taxpayers with the bill. But Canadian workers have to pay for all the inflation, all the interest rates, and all the tax hikes themselves. So will he have an ounce of compassion, take fuel taxes off for the summer so Canadians can have a road trip this year?
I'm going to ask all honourable members, please, to not take the floor unless they're recognized by the Speaker, so that all members and so the public at home can listen and hear the question and also hear the answers. The Honourable Minister of Health.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I don't think Canadians' idea of summertime fun is being locked in a car for 10 straight days. I think their idea of summertime fun also isn't having their dental care taken away or taking away their diabetes medication, or that their summertime fun is losing child care, Mr. Speaker. Their definition of summertime fun, I think maybe they should have a conversation with kids about what they want to do with their summer. I think they care more about getting dental care and having good teeth than being locked in a car for 10 straight days.
I would like to ask all members in this House to perhaps remain silent including ministers and parliamentary secretaries. The honourable member for Mégantic-l'Érable. After 9 years, this Prime Minister, with the support of the Bloc Québécois, is simply not worth the cost of $500 billion of inflationary spending that has forced parents to skip meals to be able to feed their children. Whilst the leader of the Bloc Québécois and several of his MPs are campaigning to radically increase taxes on gas, Quebecers in various regions are paying the cost because they don't have access to transit. That's what one could call being completely out of touch. Will the Liberal Bloc put their ideological agenda on hold, at least for the summer, and vote for a motion to suspend the federal gas tax for the summer? The Honourable Minister for the Environment and Climate Change. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The calculations and economies put forward by the Conservative Party is completely ridiculous. An Albertan family, for example, would have to drive 37,000 kilometers during their vacation. So you could leave from Montreal and go to Mexico City and come back to Montreal, go back to Mexico City, come back to Montreal, go back to Mexico City, and come back to Montreal, go back to Mexico City, and you'd still have kilometers to spare. Order. The honourable member for Mégantic-l'Érable. Mr. Speaker, I don't know where they do their calculations, but they seem to be pulling numbers out of thin air, as usual. We know full well on our side that Quebecers that have to fill up their car every week will see a change in their bill at the end of the month. That is the truth. Quebecers who are paying too much for groceries, who are paying too much for their rent, and who can't make ends meet, who have to go to food banks, Mr. Speaker, they understand liberal mathematics because these mathematics take money from their pockets. Will they suspend the tax, the carbon tax for the summer? The Honourable Minister for the Environment and Climate Change. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I know that mathematics aren't the forte of the Conservative Party of Canada, so I would like to help them. To try to benefit from the economies put forth by the Conservatives, a family would have to expend 3,296 litres of gas over 3 months. So at 8.9 litres per 100 kilometres, that means driving 37,000 kilometres. You go from the North Pole to the South Pole, and you could almost get all the way back to the North Pole. And you'd also have to do that in under a few months. It's complete rubbish, Mr. Speaker.
À l'ordre, s'il vous plaît.
Order.